English kids are the most depressed in the developed world. Did you know that? Yeah, it's hard for me to get my head around because you've got it all. iPads, Heelys. What did we have? Chinese burns and slapsies. For years, I was baffled by the Chinese.
What's wrong with them? All they want to do is whisper and fuck up your wrists.
We weren't depressed because we had nothing and we were inventive. Girls were incredible when I was little. Give them an elastic band.
Cat's cradle, cat's cradle.
Or that creepy thing you did with paper.
Pick a number, pick a colour, pick a number, pick a colour. What voodoo sorcery is this, Sarah? Pick a number, pick a colour, pick a number, pick a colour. Red, R-E-D. Number! 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're a dick.
Exactly. Mum, the girls outwitted me again. Mum. You don't get to cry like that as an adult, do you? I spent my entire childhood crying. Mum, what is it for fact? My tooth's falling out, Mum. I think I'm dying.
Don't worry, Russ. The tooth fairy will deal with that. Go on.
Can you remember the delirium inside your mind when you first found out about the tooth fairy? You're 8 years old.
Like, what? If a tooth falls out, a fairy arrives, takes it, and I get £1. That's right. Shit the bed twice. This is the greatest day of my life.
Can you remember the feeling of joy as you strode into school?
What is it? It's £1, Nathan. It's £1. What are you gonna do with it, Russ? I can do anything. I may even release a trolley.
And do you know what they're doing to get kids over their depression? Apparently, happiness lessons, which I think is a good idea. We're all searching for joy. I think it'd be quite nice to learn how to be happy. It's got to be better than the things we learned. Algebra, pointless. The recorder, the hours I spent playing Little Donkey, it has never helped me in my adult life. I've never been at a party. I don't know what this shit needs. Just girls in the corner. Oh. Do you know London's burning? You know what I do. The only good thing about playing the recorder, it meant at least you weren't playing the triangle. Do you remember those forgotten souls down the front of the class? Clunk, clunk, clunk. We're hitting metal with metal. Clunk, clunk. What was the worst thing about school? It was when you were 12 and you had to do a book report in front of the class and you hadn't read the book. Do you remember that? This is the first time you learned to lie.
What an amazing book this was. One of the finest books I've ever read in my book reading career. I agree with the author, miss. You should never, ever kill a mockingbird. Don't do it.
There's just so many liars in my English class. I thought I was grumpy, miss, until I read about Les Miserable. Or show and tell. Show and tell was horrible. Show and tell should have been called Who's the Poorest in the Class? Because there was always some arsehole, these are rollerblades. Dad got them from LA. This is a stick. I saw a kid in Wagamama the other day. He had a phone in his hand going, oh, I've only got 20% left. You've got your own phone! You're 12! I would have lost my mind. What did we have? The landline. Do you remember that? You'd creep into the kitchen. You tried to speak to a girl. You were never alone. There was always another member of your family on a different phone. Every time I used to speak to a girl, my brother would be on the top phone making this noise. Oh, yeah, funny. What are you doing? He's wanking. I'm not! So absurd. I used to find them so funny when I was a kid. Like, I never really connected with mainstream R&B. It was just buffoons bragging and having a better life than I knew I would ever have. You know, you've seen the kind of, I pull out my wang, I stick it in my honey, I bang her ass on a big bed of money. She She comes 50 times, I'm a hot romancer. While she sucks my dick, I'll make a cure for cancer. Anyway, very much doubt I'm going to do that. But it should be music that we can connect with. The awkward teenage boys of the world sat in a park drinking beer from a tin. Meant to go clubbing, but they wouldn't let us in. Ran out of money at 8:45. Yo, motherfuckers, let's go back to mine. It'll be amazing. I'm the host with the most. We'll watch Match of the Day and Mum will make toast. That's exactly it. The amount of nights you've had that start off with what's going to happen and end up with
So, give me a cheer if you're a teenager. Lovely stuff. I hated my teenage years, mainly because I was very badly bullied at school for being gay. And what was most difficult about that experience for me is I'm not gay. Which is very annoying when you think about it. Because I just got the downsides of that situation. You know, I got all of the abuse and absolutely none of the sweet cock. Not a wiggle, not a whisper. And, you know, I'm not saying that had I been gay, the abuse would have been any more tolerable. Of course not, I'm not saying that. But if I'd have been gay, at the very least, when I got home, I could have got my money's worth. You know, could have gone home and been like, oh, thank God that's over. Nigel! Num, 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 num. Worth it. Alas, no. It was worse when I was about 15, and it was almost enough to put me off wearing a velvet jacket to my GCSEs. Almost.
I miss being a kid, man. I liked being a kid. Favourite part of being a kid was Christmas. Favourite part of Christmas was the Christingle service. What is a Christingle? I'll tell you. A Christingle, right, is an orange. It's got a red ribbon tied around it. And isn't that already weird? 2 steps in. I'm not even halfway through this description. That's an orange with a red ribbon. There's never any excuse to tie a red ribbon around an orange, is there? Unless you're going to fly somewhere on holiday, you want to check the orange in beforehand so that when it comes round on that conveyor belt, you can tell it apart from all the other oranges. Clever. You don't want to go home with a satsuma, or God forbid, a clementine. Orange, got a red ribbon tied around it. And then 4 cocktail sticks stuck in the top of the orange. And then you skewer raisins and Donny mixtures onto those. And then you get a long, thin candle, drive that into the top of the orange, and you light it. And then a small child carries that down the aisle of the church on Christmas Eve, and nobody questions it. Side note, if I'm ever in a food fight, Christingle, weapon of choice. A lot going on there, spikes and fire. Best of luck with your custard pie.
And also I grew up in inner city Bradford, so it's quite multicultural. I was the only white boy in my form class, when about 5 or 6. In my year, man, initially it was very hard to make friends, you know. I did sort of find my place, joined a gang. Called the Blazing Bangladeshis. Who are the Blazing Bangladeshis? Just me. And 5 Bangladeshis. Khoisar Ali, Ibrahim Ahmed, Nurul Amin, Ashraf Mahmood, Mohammed Abdullah Al Masouf, and Jonathan Pelham. People looking at us are so confused. They're like, are you their lawyer? Some sort of Bangladeshi albino? There were some rules, obviously. Every establishment needs rules. The first rule of the Blazing Bangladeshis, you do not talk about the Blazing Bangladeshis. The second rule, no Pakistanis. I didn't make the rules, guys, so don't go hating on me. I quite enjoyed my childhood. It was pretty good at school. I was never good with women, though. The worst example of this was year 11 prom, because suddenly I had to ask a girl out. And there was a girl, she was called Hannah. And I fancied Hannah, for I knew what fancying was. You know that age when you confuse sexual attraction with indigestion? Just sort of wandering around wide-eyed, thinking, what the hell was in my moussaka last night? Because it has made my penis massive. And I remember I sort of plucked up the courage. I asked her out, and quite remarkably, almost like a Hollywood movie, she said yes. And I never forget, you know, I was so excited. I ran home, I told my mum, I bought my first suit, I bought some flowers. I went to prom and I gave her the flowers, and it turned out that she'd only accepted as a joke. Confidently, there was no confusion over the meaning of girl you love, laughing in your face in front of the whole school. I like to think, ultimately, I won, though, because she died. Ridicule and humiliation, but ultimately still breathing.
I didn't really concentrate at school, and I found my GCSE history coursework the other day, and I thought I might read you the answers to 2 questions. I basically tried to blag my way through it, and I managed to write 3/4 of an A4 side for each of these questions, having done no revision whatsoever. So the first question was about the history of surgery, and the question was, describe the problems which held back the development of surgery before the 19th century. Quite a straightforward question. And I put, in the past, quite vague. In the past, there was basically no surgery. The main reasons were religion, fear, and lack of knowledge of surgery. However, over time, people started to listen to philosophers and kings, and eventually they started to give surgery a go. They tried very hard, as nobody likes being in pain, of course. At different points, different people made different types of progress, which are too complicated to list. Some years later came the surgery we know and love today. And the second question, who invented the toilet and when? And I put, in the Greeks. That's not a thing. In the Greeks, people went to the toilet in the earth and wiped their bottoms with sponges on sticks dipped in salt water, which was shared by everyone. The excrement flowed away into ponds, and poor people were made to drink it. When the toilet did arrive, I don't say how, people were frightened of it and did not want to use it. Slowly but surely, they trusted this new way of life, and the sponges on sticks were thrown away or burnt. The poor people began to drink clean water and felt much better. I got a B.
You know, I grew up as a rapper, you know, and growing up as a rapper, I'll be honest with you, I never thought I would live this long. I didn't. I thought I would hit 27 and then die of like a weed and pussy overdose, you know? It never worked out that way. Now I'm a rapper in his 30s. With kids. And a shed. You know? What do you know? What do you young people know about that? You know? Well, what do you know? What do you young people know about having a pair of trainers specifically for garden use? What the fuck do you know about that? Do you know about that? What do you know? What do you know about back pain? What do you know about receding hairlines and chilblains? What do you know about the 80s, when the coolest thing you could say was, baby, page me? Huh? What do you know? What do you know about 4-channel telly, corned beef hash and spotted dick in your belly? What do you know about getting shoes that ain't Nikes and drawing the swoosh? What do you know about finding porn in a bush? If your definition of old school is MySpace, I say get the fuck out of my face. What do you know about no smartphones? Calling your girl's house, but her father's home. Hello, sir. I'd like to have sex with your daughter. Nice one. Because we're way past dry humps. Matter of fact, what do you know about dry humps? Fully clothed on the bed where you find us. Innocent like two little angels. Nowadays, kids want first date anal. Yeah. Instant action, thanks to that Tinder thing. What do you know about waiting 2 months for fingering? You know, but I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter that my internet was the yellow pages. No, I'm not.